Good morning, and welcome back to the Elemental I Ching. Today we're going to look at GK29, the hexagram of the abysmal river, the moving waters. And it moves from the shadow of half-heartedness to the gift of commitment to the city of devotion. And it's one of these primary elemental bagwas, the elemental trigrams that make up the entire 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. So I wanted to dive in a little deeper into this element of water and talk about its essence and its relationship with the other elements in life as we move, as the sun moves through all of these different archetypal forces. And it's an amazing contemplation to watch this natural progression of each element in relationship, because for me this is the core work that's helping me embody the transmission of the gene keys, is how can I apply the river of devotion into this moment, into this day. And we're watching the sun move through all of these hexagrams as a way to explore the universal codes and what's occurring on the victim story on an individual and collective level, as well as how we can harness those elements into their highest, most refined essence for greater service and love and inspiration for the world. So the river, I spoke earlier in the transmission of guidance that the river, one of the Taoist sayings that I love about the river, is in the I Ching they called this danger, caution, that there was an element of great risk in the moving rapids of the water. And this is very true. It's a very dangerous element. You can drown, you can slip and fall. But the wisdom that these ancients asked us is that the safest place in danger is right at the heart of it, in the roaring river, right in the heart of the current, to let the current take you where it's supposed to go. And that the most dangerous part is actually the slippery banks of half-heartedness. It's our struggle against that current of life that creates resistance, that creates suffering. When I went to Paititi Institute in Peru last winter for 2 months, and we're way out, many hours away from any city. Long hikes, long drive, way out into the middle of the Amazon, and where the Amazon meets the Indian mountains. And we were at this place called the Rio Mapocho Valley. And they were speaking to us on our preparatory day of some of the dangers and cautions about this land, because we're far away from medical help, so we had to take full responsibility for our lives, which is an aspect we should take into every step of our life. And one of the things that they said is, if you ever fell into the river, to be mindful is that your job is to protect your neck, protect your head, to keep your back straight, and to float right in the center of the current of that river, until eventually one of the eddies will take you against to the banks of the river and you can climb out. This was a huge revelation for me, again, on this very physical level, that the safest place to be is to trust the current. Because it's our resistance, it's our trying to thrash against these roaring rapids of life that can actually make us drown, that can get us caught underneath rocks, that can get us swept unaware by the currents that are actually taking us, that are trying to get us to go down into the further down the river of devotion. But it's our mind that panics, that reacts against these challenges in our life. And this is the core teaching of the 29, of the abysmal river. It's the abyss, to dive into the abyss, into the unknown, to let the currents of life sweep us all the way back home, eventually led by the gravity of love all the way back home, to the banks where we are supposed to get up and out of that river. And of course, with these slippery banks of half-heartedness, it's important to know our yes and know our no. If we're going to go into the river, dive deep. Commit completely into the decision that is a yes, that is correct for you. And if it's not correct for you, walk away. Don't step with one foot in, one foot out. That's the quickest way to lose your footing and to get swept into this tug of war of life, of our resistance. Should I stay or should I go? A full yes or a full no. It's a powerful, where we keep our heart held halfway back in our relationships, or in a certain situation in life, when a challenge emerges, when a trigger emerges, when provocation arises. Are we secretly keeping half of us away of like, well, I don't like this, so I want to get away, or ooh, I actually want to be with her, or I actually want to do that thing over there. And so half of my heart is not committing to this present moment. The commitment is not to one person, to one thing, to one outcome, to an expectation. That's a trick. It's not committing to your expectation. It's actually committing to the present moment, committing completely to this experience and following, trusting the current to take you to the next step on your path. That life is a much more intelligent creature than this mind is able to control or produce through pure intention alone. We have to learn the art of surrender, a lucid surrender. It's not an apathetic, oh, I guess I'll just give up. It doesn't actually help in this situation. We need to keep our neck, our back straight, keep our neck and head protected. That's the evolutionary impulse. We have to commit, be fully present, be fully awake and aware to all the rapids that are moving. And release and trust and commit to that river as it guides us to the next step of our journey. Because devotion remembers that there is only love here. And everything, as one of my teachers says, everything is love. But some is love in a confused state. There is intolerance and conflict and confusion and oppression in our world. It's not about denying those aspects. It's not about spiritually bypassing. Stay present, stay lucid, stay clear. And even those turbulent waves are all a part of the mechanism of love that's constantly drawing us back to the ocean of love, the ocean of devotion that lies, our home, the deep unconscious, that the deep mother that is always holding us and always will, including some of the challenges that rip off parts of our conditioning that we no longer need, to dissolve parts of our story and let them flow down the river too. Can we release some of this intolerance, some of these things that have held on so long? So right now in my journey, I'm about to leave for the Symbiosis Oregon Eclipse Festival. And many, many people are rushing rivers to Oregon right now to witness this galactic moment of the solar eclipse. And the solar eclipse will be in this key, in GK29, devotion and eclipsing a part of ourselves. A death and a pause and an ending of great cycles. And there's a lot of turbulence rising in my country right now and around the world as we face these deep, shadows of what the river is bringing for us. And I wanted to draw that in of what is the half-heartedness. The river is on the bottom trigram here. So where is that water falling? Where is there heavy energy? Where is there draining energy in these keys? I have my little cards here. So division, intolerance, dishonesty, exhaustion, oppression, conflict. These are the shadow qualities of this water that are stirring things up. And that where do we drain our energy? Where are we dishonest with our sexual energy, with our intentions? Where are we confused with where our river of genius is supposed to go? Where are we in conflict and trying to dynamically change this situation instead of flowing with this energy? So these are some elements to consider when we look at the water inside ourselves. My dear brother Adam Apollo, he has this harmonic Guardian Alliance, this harmonic color encoding for these elements, and he calls the river communication. I love that. Can we communicate? Can we commit to clear communication? Can we become ambassadors, vessels, hosting the transmission and letting that devotion communicate through us? So when we communicate with that commitment, we get these gifts like guidance, understanding, intimacy, resolve, imagination, and diplomacy. And you can see how that shapes those same energies of those turbulent ways when we're not dispersing and leaking out that water, but actually following the banks of the river of devotion and communicating that commitment. And devotion, that intimacy with love, that transparency, that virtue, that forgiveness of the water, the deep waters of the grail in our heart, the illumination, the peace that occurs when that river finally comes to rest. So drink in the waters of devotion this week and prepare for this solar eclipse. What in you are you ready to let eclipse? I'm ending some big cycles in my life, and I'm committing even deeper to the ferocious devotion of my heart, of my art, of my music. I'm being invited, probably for the first time this year, to these festivals to bring music, to bring my prayer, to be at the heart of the eye of the storm, to be right in the center of danger. I was so looking forward to not going to this festival. There was so much energy, so much, logistics, so many people, so much potential problems as all these people clog up the highways, the arteries of our state, rushing to see this moment. Where am I rushing to? What do I really desire? But when the invitation came to really bring my prayer, to bring really who I am to the center of a storm of prayer, of a potential collective experience, at a time when I feel prayer and true honoring of each other, of a community, of building community, of activating our genius and opening our hearts and relationships so that we can liberate the clarity and prosperity that we need in this planet to uplift this energy of confusion and oppression and intolerance and division. We get to harness that power of all of this turbulence that's rising right now and commit completely to who we are and what values we stand for, what virtues we stand for, to forgive with that intimate love, with that divine will, with that peace and diplomacy and imagination that we are here to be vessels of. We are not the water, we are carriers of the water. The water is the infinite love of the universe pouring through us at all times. The abysmal river is also the waterfall. Sit beneath the waterfall of divine intelligence and become a vessel, a conduit for that energy to flow through us, to communicate more beautifully, to communicate love, the essence of love. And love not as some apathetic or flaccid experience. It's not about falling at the wayside against intolerance, against division, against oppression. But we don't need to feed it with more anger and hatred. We can stand strong with commitment and devotion. The rivers of devotion cannot be dammed for long. Any of those walls of conditioning that have been built up internally in my own life or in our collective life, eventually these rivers will run free again. So I pray for clean waters, for these waters to run free, for the salmon to run free, for us to stop poisoning this water internally and externally. I commit to a healthy body, to commit to actually intaking clean energy through food, water, media, intention, attention, all of that to allow this vessel to be a very beautiful grail, ever blossoming with the generosity of love, without leaking my own energy. I can be sovereign, like the wisdom of the mountain, creating that container so that this river can effortlessly flow forth. Because there's enough universal love in the space between us for all the healing to occur. It's not about compromising who we are. It's not about compromising our values in the face of that intolerance, that division, that conflict. And can we still choose love, true compassion, passionate compassion, virtuous compassion, the virtue that is able to lift up our heads and say the truth, to that resolve, that divine no. The banks of the river have that divine no, that we're going all the way home, all the way to this brilliant future that we can see. Can we open our hearts to the possibility of forgiving those that have trespassed against the sacred rights of our bodies, of our land, of our water, of our countries? And can we include all parts of ourselves? Because those images of hatred and intolerance and conflict that we see outside of ourselves are mirrors for that same conflict inside myself, inside each of us, if we choose to look that deeply. So I drink in this incredible magic of the divine waters of devotion, to commit beyond my fear, to commit beyond the unknown, to walk into the darkness, not completely unaware and yet surrendered to the grace of the water that will guide me, to listen to the communication of spirit, to listen to the heart of devotion between all human beings. Our basic programming is love and compassion. I believe that. I am devoted to that quality inside myself, and I am devoted to stand and swim and sing that love out. Not as a bypass, not as some just hippie ideal of love, but can I commit in every action, in the way I consume products, in the way that I vote with my money, in the way that I interact with conflict in the real world, in the way that I forgive the abuse that has been done to me and the abuse that I've done to others, in the imagination that can foresee a possible future, that can build and align to this transfiguration that is possible, from the deepest wounds to the greatest alchemy of love and compassion for all beings. So I'll see you on the other side of this eclipse. So many blessings. Stay safe. If you're going out on the streets, if you're going out anywhere in Oregon or anywhere where there's going to be a million people, bring water. Bring water. Bring clean water. Be careful with your water internally. Careful with the love of your heart, not to just pour without lucidity, and yet not hold half-heartedly back from our relationships. Even as relationships change, even as the form of our relationships die and dissolve, we can still love. There is no love lost. Whether someone has died, whether your relationship is broken up, whether your business is collapsing, whether your country is in turmoil, there is no love lost. Not in this river, not in the true river of devotion. May every drop, every tiny victory of choosing love in the face of challenge, of choosing love in the face of darkness, of choosing love in the face of non-love, every drop feeds this great grail, this incredible river. May we all sate our thirst by this river, by this clean river of the heart. Bless.